The San Francisco 49ers are entering another fascinating offseason chapter. And if the early signals from the front office are any indication, this organization is preparing to run it back while making calculated moves that could reshape the roster in subtle but meaningful ways. The story of the 2026 offseason isn't about tearing everything down or starting fresh. It's about adjustments. It's about filling critical gaps while maintaining the identity that has kept San Francisco among the NFL's elite for years. And right now, that identity begins on defense. The hiring of Raheem Morris as defensive coordinator immediately sparked questions across the league about whether the 49ers might fundamentally change their defensive philosophy. Morris has historically leaned into hybrid looks and even 3 to 4 alignments and pass stops. But based on how the roster is being constructed, it's becoming increasingly clear that San Francisco is not abandoning the traditional 4-3 foundation that has defined its defensive success. The clearest evidence came with the acquisition of defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa. The 49ers gave up a valuable third-round pick to bring him to Santa Clara, and Odighizuwa is about as pure of a 4-3 defensive tackle as you can find in today's NFL. His ability to penetrate gaps and disrupt from the interior fits perfectly into the wide nine philosophy the 49ers have relied on for years. This move signals continuity rather than reinvention. However, that doesn't mean Morris won't introduce some wrinkles. One tactical adjustment expected to appear more frequently in 2026 is the use of 5-man defensive fronts. This alignment allows the defense to create pressure from multiple angles while still maintaining flexibility and coverage behind it. But deploying those packages effectively requires a very specific type of player. A hybrid edge defender who can line up as a defensive end on early downs and shift into a stand-up rusher or linebacker role when necessary. And that brings us to the sudden and unexpected problem the 49ers must now solve. Bryce Huff's surprise retirement sent shockwaves through the defensive depth chart. Huff had quietly become one of the most efficient situational pass rushers on the roster, and his departure leaves a noticeable hole opposite Nick Bosa. It also shifts the focus of the entire offseason strategy. What once might have been a luxury addition at edge rusher has suddenly become a priority. The timing of Huff's retirement couldn't be more interesting because it has opened the door to one of the most intriguing possibilities in the entire NFL this offseason. A scenario that fans have speculated about for years. A Bosa brothers reunion. Joey Bosa remains one of the most recognizable defensive players in the league, but his career has entered a complicated phase. The talent is still there. When healthy, he remains a disruptive pass rusher capable of taking over a game. But durability has been the story of his career. Joey Bosa has never completed a full 17-game season, and that reality has affected his market value. For the 49ers, that may actually work in their favor. San Francisco has never been shy about taking calculated risks on talented players with injury concerns. The team understands how to manage snap counts, rotate defensive linemen, and maximize productivity without overexposing veterans. In that environment, Joey Bosa wouldn't need to play every down. He could serve as a situational weapon, keeping him fresh and dangerous throughout the season. Imagine the scenario. Nick Bosa commanding double teams on one side, interior pressure coming from Odighizuwa, and Joey Bosa rotating in to attack offensive tackles in obvious passing situations. Suddenly, a defensive line that looked thin just days ago becomes one of the most intriguing pass rushing groups in football. Financially, the situation may now be more realistic than ever. The 49ers recently restructured Nick Bosa's contract, freeing up more than $17 million in cap space for the upcoming season. Moves like this rarely happen in isolation. They are usually part of a larger strategy. If San Francisco can bring Joey Bosa in on a short-term deal in the range of $5 to $6 million, it would be one of the most fascinating low-risk, high-upside signings of the entire offseason. And the impact wouldn't just be emotional or symbolic. It would allow the coaching staff to deploy Michael Williams more creatively along the defensive line. Williams has the versatility to shift inside on passing downs, creating mismatches against slower interior linemen. Pair that flexibility with two Bosa brothers collapsing the pocket from the outside, and opposing quarterbacks could find themselves under relentless pressure. But even if that dream scenario plays out, the 49ers know it doesn't solve their long-term problem at edge rusher. The future of the position still likely lies in the upcoming NFL draft. League insiders already believe San Francisco has narrowed its early draft priorities to two positions: wide receiver and defensive end. That strategy makes perfect sense when you evaluate the roster. The offense needs a vertical threat capable of stretching the field and creating space underneath for the rest of the playmakers. The defense needs an explosive young edge rusher who can eventually develop into a long-term starter opposite Nick Bosa. One name already generating attention in the pre-draft process is Indiana wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr., who is scheduled to visit the 49ers for a pre-draft meeting in Santa Clara. Teams are allowed 30 such visits with prospects each year, and these meetings often reveal which players are firmly on a team's radar. Cooper brings speed, explosiveness, and big playability. Exactly the type of skill set the 49ers offense could benefit from. But the draft discussions don't stop there. Another intriguing defensive prospect being evaluated is Miami edge rusher Akeem Masitter. Masitter isn't necessarily the most physically overwhelming prospect in this year's class, but his technique has impressed evaluators. He plays with tremendous leverage, powerful hands, and an understanding of how to win battles at the line of scrimmage. He's the type of player coaches love: a technician, a craftsman, someone who knows how to translate effort and fundamentals into production. Health concerns will need to be evaluated, but players with his skill set often carve out long and productive careers in the NFL. While the spotlight tends to fall on splashy free agent moves and draft speculation, the 49ers have also quietly made important decisions in areas that rarely dominate headlines. Special teams. San Francisco recently re-signed linebacker Luke Gifford after his Pro Bowl season as a special teams ace. Moves like this may not generate viral excitement, but they are essential to maintaining a championship-caliber roster. With Gifford anchoring coverage and return units, the 49ers dramatically improved their special teams rankings in multiple categories. In a league where field position and hidden yardage often determine close games, retaining elite special teams players is a crucial piece of roster building. Now, before we continue breaking down what this offseason could mean for the 49ers championship window, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dive coverage of the NFL's most fascinating teams and storylines. Because if you think this offseason is already wild for San Francisco, the next few months could get even more dramatic. Another storyline quietly unfolding behind the scenes involves one of the most important players in franchise history: Trent Williams. The All-Pro left tackle remains one of the most dominant offensive linemen in football, but contract negotiations between Williams and the 49ers have created uncertainty. Rumors of potential holdouts, restructuring discussions, and even speculative trade talk have circulated among fans. But the reality appears far less dramatic. Multiple insiders believe Williams will almost certainly return for the 2026 season. The reason is simple. The 49ers currently have no viable replacement at left tackle. There isn't an heir apparent waiting in the wings. And drafting a rookie to immediately protect the quarterback's blind side would be a massive gamble for a team with Super Bowl aspirations. Williams understands that leverage, and the front office understands his value. So while negotiations may continue and a holdout remains possible, the most likely outcome is a temporary resolution that keeps one of the league's best offensive linemen in red and gold for at least one more season. And then there's the human side of the roster additions. One of the newest members of the secondary, cornerback Nate Hobbs, arrives in San Francisco not just as a talented defensive back, but as someone who has been remarkably open about his personal journey. Hobbs has spoken publicly about dealing with anxiety throughout his life and losing his father at the age of 12. Instead of hiding those struggles, he has embraced the opportunity to use his platform to advocate for mental health awareness. His perspective reflects a growing cultural shift across professional sports. Athletes are increasingly willing to discuss the emotional challenges that come with life in the spotlight. For the 49ers locker room, players like Hobbs bring more than coverage skills. They bring leadership, authenticity, and resilience. And when you zoom out and look at the entire roster, the 49ers appear to be executing a fascinating hybrid strategy this offseason. Short-term flexibility paired with long-term planning. Several veterans have been signed to short deals. Others have restructured contracts to create immediate cap space. Meanwhile, the front office is positioning itself to address foundational positions in the draft. The result is a roster that can compete right now without completely sacrificing the future. Even the salary cap situation reflects that balance. The 49ers recently received a massive $20.65 million cap adjustment due to insurance reimbursements on injured players. Nick Bosa's ACL injury and Fred Warner's season-ending ankle injury both triggered clauses that return money to the team's cap sheet. That unexpected financial boost gives San Francisco more room to maneuver. Room to pursue players like Joey Bosa. Room to extend emerging stars. Room to remain aggressive in building a championship roster. And when you combine that financial flexibility with a proven coaching staff, a loaded defensive core, and an offense still capable of explosive production, the 49ers remain firmly planted in the NFL's contender tier. The real question now isn't whether the team will compete. It's whether these calculated off-season decisions will be enough to finally push them over the championship threshold. Because for a franchise that has come painfully close multiple times in recent years, the margin between contender and champion has never been smaller. And if the football world really does get to witness Nick and Joey Bosa lining up on the same defensive line in San Francisco, the 49ers defense might become one of the most feared units in the entire NFL. So as this offseason continues to unfold, keep your eyes on Santa Clara, because the moves being made right now could shape the next era of 49ers football. And if you want more deep NFL breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let us know in the comments what you think about the possibility of a Bosa Brothers reunion in San Francisco.